Check. Excuse me, everyone in the house. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. It seems like we've lost power in the house. Is that correct, Lou?
Yeah, the lights went out.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. Can we get them back on, please?
I'm afraid not.
Why not?
It appears you've run out of money.
Oh, you mean like the electric bill wasn't paid or something? Like we don't have enough money to run the rest of the program?
Nope.
Okay, that's an issue. So would this be a good time to ask everyone in the house for money?
No, that's later, Jason.
Oh, right.
You know what? You could Venmo me money right now, and I can take care of it.
Oh, really? Oh, that's great. Yeah, why don't I do that? How much
Okay,
How much
cool.
I owe?
Yeah, cool. Just send me $40.
$40. Okay, yeah, I'll Venmo you that. Lou is such a nice guy. $40.
Yeah, man.
There you go. I just sent it to you. So is that going to take care of it?
I think so, yeah.
All right, yeah.
Hey, thanks for paying me back the $40 you owed me.
Thanks for not sabotaging the program. So let's get things powered up. All right. Welcome to Generations. Thank you for everyone to join us tonight. I'm Jason Brewer. I'm on staff with Never the Same. It's been a couple of years since we've been able to gather here in person, so a lot has changed in 2 years. But I wanted to say thank you for everyone for joining us tonight. Thank you for everyone who's joining us on the live stream. Welcome to Generations 2021. I wanted to kick off the program with something that I like to do, play some games. So I came up with a couple of games before I came out. So I just need a volunteer. Is there a volunteer in the house? No one wants to volunteer. All right, I'm going to go out and find a volunteer. Who do we have? You are already, it seems like you want, yeah, why don't you volunteer? Come on up here, sir. Sir that I don't know. Why don't you talk into the mic? What's your name? Yeah, just right here. Yeah, that's the piece of tape that allows you to stand right there.
All right. What was your question?
Yeah, your name.
My name is Steve.
Steve. All right, Steve.
What was yours again?
Mine is Jason.
Jason, okay. Yep.
We are going to play a little game called Spot the Difference. So I'm going to show you a couple of pictures on the screen. It's going to be behind you. And you're going to need to spot the difference between these two things. So you can look right there. You can look right there. You can look right over there. You can look over here. What is the difference between these two?
The one on the right is moved a little more. They're not quite overlapping as much.
No, that's not correct. No.
That actually is a difference.
Yeah. No, that's actually, this one is the iPhone 12 Pro. And that one is the iPhone 13 Pro.
Oh,
There it is.
I have an iPhone 6, so I understand where I'm at with that.
There's
right now.
no
yeah.
great
Okay.
difference, but there is a difference. All right, we're going to move
Okay.
on to the next pair of pictures.
Yeah, I
You
don't-
just need to spot the difference.
Okay. The one on the left looks really, really young and well-to-do. The one on the right looks.
That is not correct, apparently.
Oh, okay.
But that was a good guess. I appreciate that. No,
Okay.
do you have another guess?
No, I'm not. We're in a church, right? Yeah. No.
All right,
no other guesses.
Well, the
Yeah.
difference is
Yeah.
it appears that I'm happier in one. I'm just smiling in one.
All right, I'll give you that. All right.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Steve, for playing this quick game of Spot the Difference. That's it. You don't win anything. You didn't get anything right. You can just make your way. You can put the mic right there in the stand. I'm going to invite somebody else on stage, our founder, CEO of Never the Same. He's going to play the next game that I just made up just a few minutes ago. It's called Name That Brand.
Okay.
All right, so you're going to see a picture on the screen, just like the last guy. It's this. And you need to name the brand.
Name the brand. Purell.
No, that is not correct.
Germex.
That is no. That is
Walmart.
not. No, that's just count the bubbles. It's really
Okay.
It's per square inch, Jeff.
I don't know what it is.
You haven't used the hand sanitizer in the
I
last
have.
couple. You should know this. It's Suave.
Okay. I think it's pronounced suave.
I'm not French.
Okay.
All right, we got another picture for you. You got to
Okay,
name
I'm ready.
the brand. You've probably used this plenty of times in the last couple of years.
The Three Stripe brand.
No, it is not branded the
Charmin.
three. No,
Cottonelle.
no,
Costco.
no. It's unbranded. It was actually a trick question.
Oh, wow, okay.
They
Thank
don't
you,
brand
thank you.
these tubes apparently, but they
I'm out of
use them
practice.
in everything.
I'm out of practice.
Yeah.
Not with that.
When
but just
you don't look at the
this.
brand when you get to that
This.
one.
Okay. Well, it's been a couple years since we've done this, and we've had a lot of questions that we want to try to answer tonight because people have, just wondering how you doing. You didn't have camp in 2020, and you're going to do all this stuff. So,
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Can we just have the audience ask us questions?
Sure. We've never done that before.
Yeah, they probably
Doesn't sound scripted at all, does it?
They probably have some real questions to
Okay,
ask.
I'll tell you what. I'll see if we'll start off. We've never done this before, but if anybody has any questions they would like to ask,
Oh,
why
I
don't
see
you
one.
run
I
out?
see one right over here. Actually.
Okay, we have a question.
Yep. Hold on.
All right, we're going to take some questions.
All right. Here we
Okay.
go. Wait, who do you have?
Hi, my name is Olivia Williamson.
Okay. Hi, Olivia.
Hi, Jeff. Just quick question. Who is your favorite, favorite employee on staff?
Okay.
It's a good
Thanks
question.
for that question. That's a great question. Does anybody else have a question?
Okay, I guess he
Thank
doesn't
you,
want to answer
Olivia.
that question. All right.
Oh, we got a question
one
right over here.
Just so close.
Hey, my name is Taylor Steele.
Hi, Taylor.
My friends call me T Steele.
Okay.
And I was just wondering, does CYC stand for Clean Your Campus?
Taylor, actually, you work for me for CYC.
Yeah.
It's not clean your campus. It's claim your campus. I
Oh.
hope you would know that. Okay.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Good questions.
Way to
Anybody else?
clarify. That's good.
have a question here?
Clarification is always.
Oh.
Oh, hey, we got a whistler in the
Aggressive
house
over there. Wow,
All right.
okay.
All right. Who do we
All
have
right.
here?
Who we got?
Hi, I'm Robin.
Hi, Robin.
I'm wondering if we can bring back Casual Fridays.
Robin, you actually work for me too. We've worked together 11 years, and you don't work on Fridays, so does it matter?
Asking for a friend.
Okay.
You look
We're going to
familiar.
bring back Casual
Yes.
Fridays just for Robin.
All
Even
right, I
though
guess
she's
we're
not
going
here.
to keep going. Oh, we got one over
we got
here.
a question in the back corner.
Okay, we'll just follow me over here.
Sensing a trend
Okay.
here.
Here we go.
Okay.
Hi, my name's Susan.
Hi, Susan.
Hi. I know you like the phrase "like a boss."
I do.
So I'm wondering how you want us to pronounce it. Is it like a boss or like a boss?
It's actually like a boss is how I like it to be said. But thank you, Susan.
Good.
You work for
Keep
me
that
too.
in mind.
So
Keep that in
thank
mind.
you for
All
all
right.
right.
Oh, we have a question over
Maybe
here.
one more, two more. What do we
Okay.
got here?
All right. Here we go.
Hey, I'm Lindsay.
Hi,
Thanks
Lindsay.
for having us. Pi is amazing.
Thank you.
So I was talking to a student the other day. She was saying her favorite Bible verse is, "We are never, ever, ever getting back together like ever." And I think it's a verse about like fleeing from Satan or something. Can you tell me where in the Bible that is?
That's actually from the book of Taylor Swift. That's not in the Bible.
Good to
But
know.
I'm glad you're our Bible director. That's great. Okay, good. Thank you, Lindsay.
I didn't know that
Okay.
either. Okay.
All right.
Sounded
Are we
really
good with the
familiar from-
questions? Does
Any
anybody
other
else have?
questions?
Oh, we got to. Oh, you better take this
I
one
see
right
the hand
here.
over here.
You better
Okay.
take this
Yeah,
question
got
right. Okay.
Eagle eyes. Or
Okay.
snake eyes.
Oh boy.
My name is Ariana.
Hi, Ariana.
Hi. Just wondering what time you'll be home for dinner tomorrow.
What time you'd ever like me home for dinner, I will be there. I promise. Whatever you say, I will
Very,
do.
very generally specific.
Okay, we're going
All
to
right.
take one more question here.
I got. All right. Hi there, sir.
Hi, my name is Kyle.
Hi, Kyle.
I'm the Director of Operations, and as that, I'm just curious with this many people in the room, who's cleaning this up at the end?
Good question. You are. Thanks for asking. Okay.
All
I think we
right.
got everybody. We're good. Thanks for the
Actually,
questions.
no.
Good questions.
I have a
Okay.
question. I have a question.
Yes.
I'm Jason. I'm on staff with you
Hi,
as well.
Jason.
I'm going back to Olivia's question. If you could answer that one, who is your favorite employee?
My favorite employee.
Yeah, they're all going to stand, and we're going to kind of like
Staff,
have you
okay.
rate us.
That's a great question. Thank
Yeah.
you for asking that. Thank you, staff, for being here. Good question. Okay.
So you're going to answer
I'm
that
going
in
to
staff
have.
meeting?
No,
too?
we're good. We're good.
Oh,
We don't need to
okay.
answer
All
that
right.
question. All right. Olivia and Taylor, I'm going to have them come up, but can we just thank our staff for being here? They kind of had to be here. These are two of our younger staff, and a lot of you guys know these people, but Olivia Williamson, Taylor Steele, working with Claim Your Campus and Enlighten students. And Olivia just became the director of Claim Your Campus, which we're excited about. And Taylor, you just came on staff just a few weeks ago, and you're from Atlanta, Georgia. And so we're glad you guys are here. But these staff of ours, you guys are on the front lines with students, and you've been interacting with students more than anyone on our team. And tonight is really about giving us an idea of like what's happening out there with young people. That's really what Never the Same's about. So serious question here for a minute. What are some of the challenges that you would see students facing today?
So we're working with a lot of students and how they can reach their schools. What we're finding with middle and high schoolers is, man, you have to stand out to be a Christian. And we know that, right? But you can't blend in and be a Christian right now. There's a lot of things that students have to choose. It's not feed in both worlds. It's like if you're a Christian, your friends might not like you. You might not have friends. You might not be popular. And students are seeing that reality and seeing how much it means to actually live their faith out in their school. And I think it's kind of shocking and startling, but it's a reality for our students in our schools today.
Taylor, what do you think?
Yeah, I think mental health is a really, really big thing. It's the first thing that comes to my mind. Students are just feeling so anxious and depressed, they don't even know where to turn. And all the time we talk about how many beds are being filled by COVID patients, but we aren't talking about how many hospital beds are being filled by students who are laying there hopeless because of their suicide attempt.
So there's some major issues that we've never really seen in terms of the intensity. And so you guys are seeing that. On the flip side, what are you seeing? You guys have been traveling all over the country, even over the last few weeks. Yeah. And Taylor, you just got back off of a tour talking about Claim Your Campus. What's the optimistic part? What do you see God doing in this generation?
Yeah, I love that question because we can literally sit here all night and talk about the negatives, but that's not the whole picture. Students are so hungry for Jesus, you guys. They're wanting everything they can get, and they don't want to miss out. I was just on tour, like Jeff said, a 9-city tour up the East Coast in 10 days, and we saw students get delivered from anxiety and depression like that, from students praying over them and God using them. We saw students get physically healed because students were praying over them and walking in boldness and living out what God has called us to do. These students are bold, these students are hungry, and they're ready for what's next.
Yeah, we've just seen that. So we want to encourage you. We've seen students stand up for their faith, start prayer groups, lead Enlighten events. Like, they're leading worship outside at their flagpoles with See You at the Pole. Like, we've seen amazing things happen this year. And so we know that even though you got to stand out, you got to be different, you might lose friends for Jesus, students are doing that because they see how important their schools are, how big the need is to share the good news of Jesus. This generation gets it, and it makes us really excited about what we get to do.
Wow, that's such good news, and God really is moving in so many ways, and we get to see it, and we want to share that with you tonight. So thank you guys for sharing tonight, and thank you. It's so fun. I mean, you felt their passion, energy, and as a team, we just want to say thank you for being here. There's a house full of people here. I know people are watching live stream all over the country, and we're just grateful that you would take your time. You've given something very valuable to us tonight, and that's your time. And what we want to do tonight is tell you the stories. You know, we've been through a crazy time as an organization, and we know that we're not alone. A lot of us have been through a lot of stuff, and normally we do this event every year. Last year we weren't able to do it as we normally did. But tonight, we just want to invite you in to hear what God is still doing and how this ministry is still moving forward, because we wondered where we might be, or if we might be, come this time in 2021. And yet here we are, and God's still faithful, and He's been amazing. And along the way, people have come around us. And I want to specifically mention a couple people, and they're not here with us, but there's a couple, Mark and Cindy Pentecost. And they stepped up alongside our ministry to help us with this dream of Claim Your Campus 2020 that many of you know about. It was a large event we were going to do last year. And we weren't able to do that because of COVID. In a physical sense, we still gathered over 100,000 people, by the way, virtually, to pray at schools across America. But when that happened, this couple really stepped up and stepped alongside us as a ministry. And they've enabled us really to continue to go forward into changing lives. But what I want you to hear tonight, as we're gathered here, I want you to hear about changed lives. I want you to hear about the hope of Jesus. I want you to see and experience some of the things that God's doing in the ministry that we have to tens of thousands of students around the country. We just celebrated our 12th anniversary, and God continues to move this ministry forward in ways I could have never dreamed possible when I founded it 12 years ago, just as the first employee, hoping that it would work out. And here we are. And so what we're going to do to begin tonight is just to hear from some students themselves around the country, from all of our various ministries, about how God is changing their lives through the ministry of Never the Same. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Bella Shank, and I'm currently a sophomore at North Branch High School. And I think one major thing that these soul exercises have taught me throughout the course of reading through all of them is just how to treat myself and the relationship that I have with God. And it just gives me so much more peace when, for me, I read them at night, and it just gave me so much more peace falling asleep and then waking up knowing what I learned previously, going to school or wherever I'm doing on the weekends. Just taking what I learned from reading those soul exercises into my daily life, and it really engaged me in my relationship with God.
Hi, I'm Colton Christian from Buffalo, New York, and I'd just like to share a little bit about my CYC story and kind of what I've been doing this senior year. So over the summer I went to an NTS camp, Never the Same, and I've been praying about, how I can impact my school, my grade, my community as a Christian. And one of the things that kind of jumped out to me was starting a Christian club at my school. So come September, I kind of forgot about it. I was in the middle of my soccer season, super busy, but then a friend of mine, he said, hey, we should start a club. And then right in that moment, I remembered the Christian club, and soon after that, 2 weeks in, we got the club started, and I was a little bit skeptical. I didn't know how many people would show up, but we were praying about it, and before you know it, we had 20, 30 people sign up, and it's just been crazy. We've been able to meet about once a week, and it's been exciting to see what God's doing in my school.
Hello, my name is Silas Taylor. I'm from Canandaigua, New York. Soul Exercises has really helped me through just keeping in touch with the Bible, and I've gone time and time again to the Bible knowing that there's always something that I can find in there. And it's funny because when I go and read the Bible, there's something that can relate to my life, and I've noticed it time and time again, how I've just been struggling with something in my life, and I go and read the Bible, and there it is, a verse that, you know, teaches me, you know, how to get through this thing, or how to progress further, and how to go to God for help. Another thing is just prayer, how it's been super powerful, and how, you know, when you touch on something in the Bible, you pray about it, and it helps you learn it even more. And I just think that soul exercises have really been helpful with me for that.
Hello, my name is Megan Hurlis, and I had the pleasure to attend the Enlightenment this past summer. So I decided to go to the Enlightenment because my youth group was going and my friends were going. So I was like, oh, that sounds like a lot of fun, so I decided to go. And I was baptized and I was saved that night. And honestly, I don't know what I would have done if I wouldn't have gone to that event, because I wasn't really so much involved with like the Bible and relationship with God, and I wasn't involved like at all. I was just going to church just to go and have fun, and I was just going to youth to go and have fun too. So I think that the Enlightenment really pushed me to like take that step forward in my relationship with God, and I'm really thankful that I went, because if I didn't, then I feel as if I would still be in the same situation and in the same spot that I was in. I would still be just going to church for fun, just not digging deeper into the Bible and really getting involved with it.
Hi, my name is Luis and I'm from Kansas City. I had the privilege to take our Hispanic ministry for the first time to NTS camp. It was an amazing time. I've been going to NTS for 8 years, but I had a student by the name of Perla that really wanted to go, and she didn't speak any English. She's one of our Hispanic young ladies. And one of the nights we had an amazing time of worship and prayer. And while she was at the front just crying, a few of us went up there and prayed for her. That night she came up to me and she shared with me that she was able to hear God's voice in her language to forgive her parents for what had happened. Her dad had been a mean dad for so many years, and she didn't know how to love on her dad. But with God and Jesus showing up that night, God showed her in her own language how she could forgive, and she was able to come back to our church that next weekend and share with the church what God had done in her life. During the services, she would say, I don't know how I'm understanding everything. That's called the Holy Spirit. God really moved that week. It was an amazing time, and our kids really enjoyed it.
Hey, my name is Derek Idle, and I'm the Executive Director for the Center for Youth Ministry at Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia. I've also been a student ministry for the last 20 years, and I also have the opportunity right now to be the student ministry pastor at Thomas Road Baptist Church in Lynchburg, Virginia. And what we have decided to do is we've researched many different tools that would help our students get connected more into the Word of God. We found the Soul Exercises was the best resource that we've been able to find to do that. So we've incorporated Soul Exercises into our small group curriculum and into what we're doing with our small groups with our students to take them deeper in the Word and deeper in their relationship with God. And it has been tremendous, the impact that it's been making and then what it's going to continue to make on our students. And so if you haven't checked out Soul Exercises, you need to check it out.
Hey everyone, my name's Caleb. I'm from T, South Dakota, and I go to T Area High School, which is where I'm at right now. And I'm a part of CYC. I was able to be a part of amazing CYC teams over the last year. The first one being a group of interns that we were able to produce content with one another and get people more familiarized with CYC and who we are and what we do. But we were also just able to pray and encourage each other and hold each other accountable and have community with one another, which was just such an amazing experience. And then the second experience that I got to go on was this summer. I was able to be a part of our Enlightened Student Summer Tour, which is the shirt that I'm wearing right now, and as well as NTS camps. So I was able to interact with students across the country who are in CYC and lead CYC groups, but to also encourage other students to be a part of CYC. And it was just an amazing experience because I got to see how God can move in so many places, and I'm just so excited to see what He's going to do next.
I'm Jeremy from Daybreak Church, and I lead a small group. Senior guys, typically they are disengaging during this phase of life, and we have recently implemented soul exercises, and we're seeing the exact opposite. They're coming more engaged, they're coming prepared, they're ready to share. Our conversations are going longer and deeper than they ever have in the past, and we are directly seeing the benefits.
I went to camp thinking that nothing was going to happen, nothing was going to change, because for the past couple of years I've been struggling with my faith, and for a while, I was a non-believer, and I didn't believe that God was real. I didn't think that he was real because my dad passed away, and I thought, how could a God let that happen? And so I went into camp thinking that I was just gonna, hang out with my friends and hear about a God that I didn't think was real. But something changed, and for the first 4 days, I would zone off during the messages. I wouldn't sing during worship. I was just, when it came to God, I shut down. But on the very last day, they asked anyone who felt a call to ministry to stand up. And for some reason, I felt something. So I stood up. And that switched something in me. I realized that I felt something, and that thing that I felt didn't come from me. It had to come from a higher power. And we were on the bus coming home, and I was like, I felt something. I didn't know what it was. I went home. We were driving home. I still felt like I was still a non-believer. But the more I actually talked to Tay, and Tay was like, you had your father, and he was a pastor, and he believed in God until the very end. He believed that there was a God up until his death. And I realized, if my dad believed in a God, if my dad believed that God was real, then he's got to be real. Because I loved my dad and I trusted him with everything I had. So I gave my life back to Christ on that bus.
Growing up, I was shuffled around a lot from family member to family member. Never really had a solid place, never really had God.
My dad dying when I was in 4th grade. My stepmom was abusive.
I had a friend commit suicide over a girl, and for my 15th birthday, I had to spend it at his funeral.
I got pressured into having sex for the first time when I was 14. I would go to church right afterwards, and I would say, God, forgive me, and I would be really heartbroken about it, but then I'd just go do it again.
And he would just come in for no reason and just sit there and beat on us. And there would be days when I would sit there and just have handprints and bruises. And I remember sitting there thinking, why is this happening to me? I was 5, and I was I don't know. Why would God put me through that?
We found out that my father was having an affair for about a year.
7th grade year, I've almost committed suicide when I was younger.
I had really good friends that did crack, and it wasn't long before I would do it.
I ran to drugs to fix my problems just because it made me in a happier state of mind. It just made me feel better and made it feel like the world was just gone and I could do whatever I wanted.
After being hurt like that, I'm scared to be vulnerable again.
I'd run to other people's opinions. I'd run to whatever the normal was, whatever someone else was doing, because I figured if they were doing it, it wasn't the wrong thing. I'm definitely running away from God just because so many things have gone wrong, and I've been through a lot. And nothing has changed and nothing has gotten better.
I ran to pornography when I was young. I'm sure every guy goes through that problem, but I did it a lot, and I felt really bad, and it sucks because I would just do it, and then afterwards I would just hate myself.
I don't know what's to come next, so I figure the faster I go, the quicker it'll get over.
If you stand still, you just feel like you're not going to get anywhere, and you just run, and I guess I ran in the wrong direction.
Such a poignant question. What are we fighting for? What you just heard, those are students, not just randomly that we found somewhere. Those have been involved in our ministry. And in coming out of COVID last year into this year, and we're still in the middle of all this stuff, one of the questions and conversations I'm having with a lot of people is just how tired we are. And it's easy to lose your fight for something. And after the year that we went through, and after the realization that we may not make it as a ministry, we started to ask that question, what are we fighting for? And you hear these stories, and they're real. These aren't fictionalized stories that we heard. These are real students with real issues in this real world. So what are we fighting for? Well, there's a lot of things that we're fighting against with students. We're fighting against the myths that they've been told about God, that God doesn't love them or God's not real. We're fighting against the identity that the world is trying to tell them who they are and what they are. We're fighting against the hope that they're losing. We're fighting against the depression that's coming into students like we've never seen before. We're fighting against all the things that seem to be raging around them. We're fighting for the hope of Jesus. We're fighting for them to know this God that loves them so much. We're fighting for them to understand that this God loves them. We're fighting for the Bible to be central in ministries that are ministering to students around the country. We're fighting for schools to become sanctuaries. We're fighting for schools to be places where students can lift up their voice to God in prayer and see Him changing the culture of their school, changing the lives of their peers around them and themselves. This is what we're fighting for. And tonight really ultimately is about talking about what this fight is and defining it, and then inviting those of you that believe that it's worth the fight to join us in this fight. Because in the 30 years I've worked with students, I've never felt the battle raging as fierce as it is right now at this moment. And I don't want to say that to sensationalize it. I don't want to say that in a way that's over dramatic. It's a stark reality to me in all my years of doing this. And that's really what this night is all about. And I'm so grateful that you're here, that you're able to share these moments with us. I know there's a lot of people watching online. And we've been through a lot of changes in our ministry in the last few months. And those changes have brought changes to our staff. They've brought a halt to some of the things we're doing. We're picking up other things. And what I want to do is just give you a quick update on what's happening. First, during all this craziness, I became a pastor of a little church called Daybreak, which is where we are. And that's a very unexpected journey that I've been on with that. And I will say this, that as last year drug on for me and all that happened, Wes Dupin, the founder of this church, approached me and said, would you consider becoming the pastor of Daybreak? And from the very beginning, the conversation was, don't leave what you're doing at Never the Same. And so with that in mind, that question echoed in my mind privately, Ariana and myself, and we thought and prayed and pondered that for several months. And then we got to just about a year ago, a little over a year ago, and we took a weekend away, and we just wanted to kind of clear our minds and think about where we were. And it was at that point that I felt the green light, and I felt the excitement and the passion to consider what it might be like for me to be the pastor of this church. And at the same time, and this is a deep theological thing here that I don't want to get into because I don't have all the answers, but I believe there's sometimes when we're following His will, where He gives us a choice, and He gives us options, and sometimes it's just like, I would just want you to do this. And I felt like about a year ago, God gave me some options, and He said, if you want to opt out of Never the Same, that's okay. That's permissible for you. It had been an assignment. It had been a calling. It had been a part of my life for 11 years up to that point. And it was at that moment that as we considered, as we prayed, and not knowing what the future would hold, that I felt the passion, the desire, and the drive still burning within me to say, regardless of where God leads us, I want Never the Same to be a part of who I am in our lives and our family. And so I told God, I still want to be in for the mission. I believe in it. And God said, good. And a lot of people have said, well, how's it work? I mean, what's going on? Well, the miracle is that God has brought us into a church that embraces the mission. Many of you here in the house are from Daybreak, and many watching are from Daybreak. And I want to say thank you. Part of the miracle of the story where he's leading the organization, Never the Same in the ministry, is the fact that there's a church that now houses their pastor, someone that believes in this mission to reach our young people across the country. And that's a miracle. We've kept the organization separate. We have moved our offices here. And tonight when we're done, if you're here in the house, you're welcome to go down and see them. But we've moved here, and God continues to just give us this burning passion. I speak for all of our staff in saying that our fight has never, within us for this, has never been stronger than it is right now. Because it's worth it, it matters. So I stand up here before you tonight, not as someone who has to, but who wants to and who gets to continue to pursue the mission to change young people's lives, because it's that important. And over the last few months, we've seen a resurgence in the ministry. It's been amazing after coming through last year. And I want to tell you a little bit about what's happening. So Claim Your Campus, we went through a weird year where schools, kind of shut down and everything changed. And then we began to see God move and do some things that we'd never experienced before. All the different states, you're going to see some stats here on the screen of where God is moving in our schools. And God continues to open doors for us in amazing ways through Claim Your Campus. Enlightened Students is another branch of our ministry, and we're seeing open doors there. What you're seeing here and these numbers are just what happened within just a week's time as we were on a tour at the end of this summer, visiting students, as students are leading their own peers in these events. Students are coming to Christ, spontaneous baptisms, all these amazing things are happening. And then along the way, Soul Exercises has continued to just really explode. Lindsay Gorvet, our director of Soul Exercises, has done such a great job in setting this up to be used all around the country as youth ministries are integrating this Bible reading and engagement system into their ministry, so that hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of students are now engaged in the Bible on a daily basis, and we know that changes lives. At NTS Camp, we had an incredible summer where we were able to see more gatherings this year. And we were really surprised by the fact that we were able to pull off, through all the complications and complexities, as you can imagine, with NTS Camp, we're still able to hold these events around the country and see these lives changed in some pretty incredible and amazing ways. And along the way, we pick up all these stories. And I'm thinking of a student, and we hear these stories all the time, and we hardly ever, it seems like we hear it and then we just never are able to capture it. But there's a student named Will that I ran into this summer, and I was just able to pull out my phone real quick and capture his story. And I want you to hear what Will has to say about his experience with our ministry.
All right, this is William. And how many years you been to NTS?
This would be my 5th year.
5th year, and last year we didn't have it, which is a bummer. But you graduated this year, right?
Yes, sir.
From Maryland.
Yep.
And you're just telling me how much. Tell me just real quick, NTS, what's done for you?
Man, it's a crazy experience. You get to walk with the Lord. You get to connect with fellow Christians, make new friends. I mean, it's just a great place, a great environment. I really encourage everyone to come. It's a great time.
And then you started a prayer group, right?
Yep, I did start a prayer group at my school. It's still going. I don't go there anymore, but it's still going strong.
That's amazing. You're able to pass it on. All right, William. I was saying you're going to come back as a leader, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
So we just hear these stories all the time about how God's moving, and kids from all over, like Will from Maryland, and students in Florida and South Dakota and Georgia, everywhere, just students that are experiencing life change in so many significant ways. And I want to tell you another thing that really, I think, will give you a way to help maybe familiarize with our hearts and what we're doing and why we're doing it. It's the last week of camp this summer in Oklahoma. And boy, seeing that video reminded me of the nice warm days of summer. Kind of miss those. And we were in Oklahoma, and it was not 30 degrees. It was like 130. It was hot. And 120% humidity. And we had a long week of camp, and it just seemed like of all the camps that we've done, having done NTS for over 20 years now, you get certain rhythms, things you get used to. And it just seemed like there was a damper on the week. The students weren't as excited. And so we thought, well, maybe it's COVID related or whatever. And we'd had other camps already this last summer, and students were really excited. There's something different. And so on the last night of camp, when most sane people would be packing up and thinking about going home, we decided as a staff, about 25 or 30 of us that were there, adult staff, we decided to start praying at 10:30 at night. Now, I know that's crazy, and it doesn't make sense because camp was just going to be over in a few hours. I mean, they were going to go to sleep, wake up, do some activities, and then they'd be done and gone, and we wouldn't see them. Camp would be over. But we decided at 10:30 we just wanted to start praying. And something started happening with our staff that I'd never seen before, and this intensity and this passion, and it just picked up this energy that I hadn't seen before. And so we kept praying, and Ariana's camp director came up to me at about 11:30 and said, I think we need to break the rules. Now, when the camp director says we should break the rules, that's something to take note. Number one, because we don't really break this rule, and if you knew her, she is not a rule breaker. So I was like, what are you thinking? And she said, I think even though it's past curfew and students would go home if they're caught outside at this time of night, I think we should invite them back to experience what God's doing. And so we did. We sent out a text to all the adults and said, God's doing something in the chapel, and if you want to come back, you're welcome to join us. And if any of your students want to go as well, bring them along. And so we just kept praying. And I was excited about that. I was anticipating what might happen. And I will tell you that as we kept praying, a couple minutes later, I kind of peeked out the window and looked down the property there where we were in Oklahoma, and nobody came. And I tell you that because something was happening in that chapel, started by our staff, and it showed their level of commitment to young people, that they were willing, no matter if they came or not, they were willing to stay there and to pray. And that was a pretty remarkable thing. I'd never really seen anything like that before. And in the ministry that we have, you've seen lots of different things. You've seen camp, and you've seen students praying at school through Claim Your Campus, and you've seen soul exercises where students are reading the Bible. And if you're new to all this, it's probably overwhelming. And I get that because we're doing lots of different things. But let me just break it down to 3 simple ways that we minister to students, and we build our foundation of our ministry around these 3 kind of pillars. And the first one is theology. So theology is a fancy word that just means your beliefs about God and who God is. And we think the best place to start is by helping students understand who God is, to understand how much He loves them, to understand the truths of Scripture. And so it's kind of crazy, but we get a kick out of bringing the old classics out and making them new and accessible to students. Things like, sounds weird, and some of you guys may know what I'm talking about, some of you may not, but like these ancient creeds that were written hundreds and thousands of years ago, we bring them out. We help students understand the truth in there about God and who He is, and things like how to read and study the Bible and how to pray. And all that may sound really weird or boring, but we have the most talented and creative staff in youth ministry anywhere, and they do an incredible job at taking these ideas and principles that are tested by time and proven, and they bring them to students to where they're excited about it. Now, amongst all the risks that we took this summer to have camp, with all the restrictions and complexities and challenges of holding a camp during this time, our greatest risk, in my opinion, that we took was what we felt God very strongly and clearly leading us to do and talk about at all of our camps this summer. And that was the idea of talking to students about human sexuality and about God's design and identity within us as human beings. And that may sound controversial to you, and that may not, but we decided that it was important during this time, Even at the risk of losing business, so to speak, with other churches, we felt that it was very, very important and critical in this time, in this day, in this era, to make sure that students, we were telling them the truth about the traditional biblical view of marriage and sexuality that you find in Scripture. Genesis 1:26 says about God and creating humanity, it says, God created them in his image, male and female, he created them. And while that's controversial to some, this idea of binary sexuality, male and female, and the idea that marriage and sexuality is designed to be monogamous, and within a marriage relationship that ideally lasts for a lifetime, we shared this truth. Now, Michelle Rhee was in the house, and Michelle, you did an amazing job. She spoke at all of our camps. And the reason I'm saying this to you tonight, because if you're going to join this fight with us, you need to know it's intense when you're dealing with this issue in our culture today, especially with students. We didn't know what would happen. We didn't know if students would get up or, disrupt things, walk out, make some noise. We had no idea, but we felt so strongly that students need to know the truth. And so we took a stand. And we shared what God has to say, not our opinions. And I want you to hear just a few of the words from one of our recordings that Michelle spoke about and what students heard. I want you to hear it. Listen in.
In the midst of the culture war and the lies of the culture, there are two big lies about this issue. One is that you have to make a choice. You have to choose either to pursue God and reject your identity, or reject God and pursue your identity. It's one or the other. And I'm going to suggest to you this morning that there is a third way. A third way that says, I can acknowledge who I am, how I feel, I can be honest about that and real about that, and I can still then commit to my King. And more people, Christian people, are starting to speak out with their stories and say, this is a part of my life, but I am choosing obedience to my King. I am choosing to pursue God's way despite this part of me, despite what the world tells me. And we need to come alongside people who make that commitment, because it is very hard, and the world is going to tell them over and over and over, you're kidding yourself. Make your choice. The other lie, which applies to everyone in this room, is that a romantic, physical, sexual relationship will be the pinnacle of your life. That you need to pursue it at all costs. Find that one special person, whoever it may be, and it's going to solve all your problems. It's going to fulfill all your insecurities. It's going to meet all your needs. Everything will be better after that. Listen, every idol makes that promise.
So theology is foundational to what we do. The next thing that we build upon is community. And during this time, it's been a really difficult time for students. As you can imagine, the isolation and all the changes that have happened in our culture in the last 18 months. In fact, right now, a recent study from 2021 says that 9.7% of our adolescents, that represents 2.3 million students, are in the midst of a severe depression right now at this moment. Think about that. 9.7%. Basically, 1 out of every 10 students is now currently dealing with some bout of very, very severe depression. And one of the things that we help emphasize, not only obviously we've talked about this, is this vertical relationship that students have with God, their creator. And that's of utmost importance. But also what's important are these horizontal relationships that young people have with others. And so baked into everything we do is this element of community. All the way from enlightened students to Claim Your Campus to soul exercises and NTS camp. Everything we do involves community, because we realize and understand that for all of us, but especially for students in their faith formation years, that they have relationships with others that are healthy and loving and respectful, especially with loving and caring adults that can pour into them and mentor them and help them understand as their faith is forming, as their life is unfolding before them. And so community is very important. The last thing is technology. We know that technology is the language of our day. We know that it's, especially with students, it's right exactly where they are. And so things like our Claim Your Campus app, all of our social media accounts, the reels, the stories, everything we're sharing consistently and often on our social media feeds, and the ways that we're investing into technology, we're always learning the latest things, because if we're going to speak their language, we have to be using technology. And so it's a very important part of the ministry and what we do. And in the midst of all that, during COVID, God really began to speak to me about our ministry and what we're doing. And I began to think about, will we exist? And if so, how will we emerge from this time that we're in? Because it's a world where everything is changing all the time, rapidly. And I will tell you that something happened within me that was very unexpected. See, for 30 years of my life and for 12 years of Never the Same Now, we've been in this very specific lane of working with middle and high school students. But what I began to realize and what God began to show me, and it may be super clear to you, but it became really clear to me over COVID especially, that the forefront of reaching young minds and hearts continues to get younger. I've seen it through 30 years. But I've seen younger and younger and younger. And sometimes I ask myself the question, if we wait to capture and try to capture their hearts and minds in high school, maybe it's too late. I'm just speaking statistically here. And God began to open up a window in my own soul for a passion to see little kids and their hearts reached. Typical young child today, when they go to school in elementary, only God knows the things that they're hearing from their teachers and from the world about who they are and what's real and what's not. And so we're opening up a new branch of our ministry that I'm really excited about, and it's still surprising to think about because of who we've been. But I know if we're going to reach into the future, we need to reach them younger and younger. When I was a kid, I went to this thing called CYC, and I forgot to bring my shirt up here, Ariana. I brought my little shirt. When I was a kid, and Ariana did this, we didn't know each other growing up, but I was in something called CYC, and you can kind of see it here. It stands for Christian Youth Crusaders. I was a little Wesleyan church kid, and I went to this thing, and the best way I describe it, it's like a combination of Scouts and Sunday school, where you learn the truths of Scripture and the Bible and all the good stories, but then you also acquired all these things that you could do and this awe and wonder of God and His creation. And so we're going to launch a new program starting next year, and that program is called Explorers. And this will be a program for 1st through 4th graders where we want churches around the country capturing the hearts of kids, getting them involved in faith formation from a very, very early age. And I just cannot tell you how excited I am to see a new thing that God has birthed out of this crazy time that we've been through. And so we can't wait to get this launched and to continue to see the gospel transform young minds and hearts and lives. Now, let's get down to the business here of money, okay? Can we do that? Is that okay? You knew that's why you came, right? So, over the course of our history, we've been mainly, our budget has been based on what we've earned in revenue. And you're going to see kind of a chart here. This gives you a basic idea of how we've done it. So for 12 years, we've been primarily revenue-based from the events that we do, NTS Camp, Grand Rapids Mud Run, things like that. Primarily those two things. And we've been able to build a really solid, sustainable model as a nonprofit to be able to continue to reach more and more students. But I will tell you this, that going into this new season, there's such an urgency that we feel, that I feel, that our staff feels, that many around us have felt too, that we need to accelerate. That this is not a time to kind of stay in neutral, to keep doing what we're doing, but time is of the essence, and we feel the urgency, and we want to reach students now. And to do that, we need people around us to help us do that. Now, for me personally, my role as it shifted through all this change is going to be, in the next 3 years, my goal and my prayer is that we can get to a funding model and a base that looks like what you're going to see here. I want us to get to a place where we can have more support around us so that we can reach more students. And many of you know our ministries, and many of you here watching, and many of you here in the house, you've invested, and we're so grateful for that, and we want to thank you for that, because you've helped us do what only God can do. And together, we have reached so many students and changed so many lives. But how about more? How about more lives? How about seeing students rescued from the pit of depression? How about seeing students that have no hope? How about seeing more of their lives changed? In Oklahoma, as I stood there and I looked out the window and nobody came, and I thought, well, it just wasn't meant to be. And I just went back and just continued to pray and just really got caught up in this moment. And then all of a sudden I looked over and like 3 or 4 students and an adult walked in. And then a couple more. And it was such a powerful moment that I wasn't really paying attention. And then you're going to see here on the screen what this turned into as the night went on. It turned into all these students that just showed up. And they started praying and they started worshiping. And God started moving in ways that in 21 years of NTS, I'd never experienced anything quite like this. Again, we're breaking the rules. This is after curfew. This is going into the wee hours of the night. And we saw students just pouring themselves out in ways that I've never seen before. And it was so powerful and it was so amazing and it was so moving. And I say that to you because that really, I believe, exemplifies what you're looking at in this ministry. As I took this particular video with my phone, Ariana was praying, and God, we saw him right before us. You could see God deliver students from unforgiveness for their parents. You could see them being freed from fear. Students are so gripped by fear and anxiety and depression. You could watch it happen. And I filmed this on my phone. I looked at it. 1:21 in the morning is when Ariana is praying this prayer. The last night of camp. That's God. And he's moving. And that's really what we're about. We're about doing whatever it takes. And our invitation for you tonight is to consider your part in what you can do to help us reach more students. Because we believe the time in which we live, it's so critical that we do not wait. We don't watch the world go by. We don't watch this generation continue to be lied to. We want to reach them with the truth about Jesus and his love for them. This summer, as we got to the end of NTS camp, we invited students to come forward and to repeat a phrase that was from Matthew 16. We talked about the life of Peter. And Peter, when asked by Jesus, who do people say that I am? And Peter's response to Jesus was, you are the Messiah. You're the Christ. You're the Son of the living God. And we invited students as they were making their commitment and their pledge of faith to commit their lives to Jesus, we invited them to just walk to the front and in an open mic just say the words that Peter said thousands of years ago, you are the Messiah. You're going to hear some of those voices here in a minute. And as you hear those voices, think about each one being a life, going home to their family, to their school, to their community, all across America, with this pledge and this faith and this burning desire to pledge their lives around this simple phrase, you are the Messiah. I want you to hear their voices.
You are the Messiah.
You are the Messiah. You are the Messiah. You are the Messiah.
You are the Messiah.
You are the Messiah. You are the Messiah.
You are the Messiah.
You are the Messiah. You are the Messiah. You are the Messiah. You are the Messiah. You are the Messiah.
You are the Messiah.
You are the Messiah.
You are the Messiah.
You are the Messiah.
You are the Messiah.
I wish I could invite you to a high school small group where they're in the Bible with soul exercises, and they've been reading passages all week long and getting together that night and just having this moment of getting to understand the Bible and hearing God's voice through his written word. And I wish I could invite you to an enlightened event where students are given the opportunity to stand in front of their peers and to share their testimony, and to lead them in prayer and to lead them in worship in their public schools. Wish I could invite you to CYC groups where students are told, pray specifically for something in your school, and they pray for it, and they see God do a miracle.
Yeah.
And those students will never doubt that there's a God because they grew up praying and hearing God's voice. And they become adults that are praying. You can hear God's voice making decisions for all of us in the things that we do in our world. I wish I could invite you to NTS camp. And I wish you could see some of the students that we've looked in their eyes and we've seen nothing but darkness. And then we've watched them walk forward when the decision time has come to give their hearts to Jesus, and to watch that. And then to see their countenance change, and to see a light and a liveliness in their eyes that we didn't see before. We get to see students' lives changed year after year. And we're so grateful that God's given us that opportunity. A lot of us share our faith and do things we don't see results right away, but we get to see students' lives change. But tonight we invite you to be a part of it in a financial way that only you can do, that can help that ministry go forward. So we're so grateful for your time here and watching online. And we do pray that you would prayerfully ask God what your part is. It's making an eternal differences. These are things that change lives. And being able to be a part of this ministry is such an honor. I say all the time, I'm so grateful that God asked me, that we get to do what we get to do. But we thank you for the gifts and the giving that make that possible, so that lives can be changed for eternity, that students can grow up knowing how to hear God's voice, that they know the first thing they need to do when they make a decision, when they're our governor, our president, our CEO of our companies, is the first thing I would do is pray, because I learned how to pray when I was in middle school and high school. So thank you for your time and for what you're going to be doing tonight.
So we're going to put some giving instructions on the screen, and here's how it's going to work. If you're here in the house, there's some forms there at your table that you already have. If you're watching online, you'll see a way that you can give here as well. And I want you to think in two ways about this. Number one is an immediate gift. Obviously, the need is great. We've been through a really crazy time financially. We made it. But we believe God wants to take us to a place where we're going to thrive again. And that's going to be with people around us that God brings that can help us to do that. So there's an immediate need. But then I want to plant in your seed tonight to think about the next 2, 3, even 5 years. Because where I know that God's taking this ministry, we need people to step alongside of us, not just right now tonight, although that's important, but in a longer term, to see us go to the places that God wants us to go, to reach the students he wants us to reach. So we're going to give you a few minutes. If you're online, you're going to have time to do this, and there's going to be a timer on the screen, and then I'm going to come back up and just wrap us up here in the house, and I'll wrap us up online as well. But thank you again for your consideration. Take some time to pray. You have the forms there, and God bless you as you consider what your part might be in this ministry. Well, all right. We're so grateful that you've been here with us tonight. And if you're watching online, thank you for joining us as well from wherever you might be. But we're grateful that you've been with us tonight. And we're going to go ahead and close off the live stream. So thank you again. And glad you're here tonight.
Believe me, I've been there, I know how it feels. Yeah, lately, you don't wanna admit you're feeling broken. Heart on the line, left hoping. I know how it feels being ripped open, emotional. Your life may be so far from perfect, but I promise that it will be worth it. Just fall like a trust fall, yeah. Fall onto me and just breathe. I'm never gonna leave your side. Whatever battles you fight, so set your fears aside. Just breathe. Keep your head up, you're never alone. When you're lost and your farthest alone, I'll be there, don't be scared, don't you know? You're never alone. Just breathe. Yeah, love me or hate me, I've been there since the very first day. See, I've seen you growing up just like a daisy. I held your hand walking through a minefield. Yeah, lately, I know you're feeling lost and that may be. I swear that I got you, no maybe. Even the bravest need saving. Sometimes your life may be so far from perfect, but I promise that it will be worth it. Just fall like a trust fall, yeah. Fall onto me and just breathe. I'm never gonna leave your side. Whatever battles you fight, so set your fears aside. Just breathe. Keep your head up, you're never alone. When you're lost and you're farthest alone, I'll be there, don't be scared, don't you know? You're never alone. Just breathe. Breathe. Your life may be so far from perfect, but I promise that it will be worth it. Just fall like a trust fall, yeah. Fall onto me, just breathe. I'm never gonna leave your side. Whatever battles you fight, so set your fears aside. Just breathe. Keep your head up, you're never alone. When you're lost and you're farthest alone, I'll be there, don't be scared, don't you know? You're never alone. Just breathe. Your life may be so far from perfect, but I promise that it will be worth it. Just fall like a trust fall, fall onto me and just breathe.